Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. Not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the chat session. With me today is a large microphone, and behind that microphone is a person going to talk into it. John Codisco from Codisco's Corner. How you doing, John? Good to see you this morning.
Sorry, I'm rubbing my eye. My allergies are kicking my behind.
Oh, well, so I've only gone down with allergies recently, right? It's something that if you don't have it when you're young, sometimes you do become susceptible to them later.
I took shots for like 5 years when I was a kid. I used to, I never made the first day of high school until I was a senior because of because it was so bad. I used to go into a room, rack my head into a wet towel, and just lay there. I mean, it was just horrible stuff.
So this is a lifelong thing. For you.
I get it once in a great while. I mean, sitting in front of the computer screen probably doesn't help.
Yeah, right. Your eyes can get dry too, and I've had that. My dad had allergies, and I think my wife has she's very sensitive to certain things. So some of the times it's allergies, sometimes it's other things, but you've learned to deal with it. Good to see you today, sir.
Oh, good to see you as well. How's things out west? I'm in upstate New York, so.
All right. What city are you?
Binghamton. In fact, the town, now we might as well do the segue. The Binghamton? Town right next to Conklin, New York, which is the Buffalo Shooter's hometown.
Okay. Okay.
No, I just wanted to mention that because it's going to be brought up. I'm not going to talk about it a lot. The only thing I want to think about is the federal law. Now, this kid obviously had some issues when he was younger, and he brought into a psych eval because he threatened the graduation.
Right. And
now when he's 18, he's allowed to buy a firearm. How did he slip through the red flags? That's that's a question that has to be answered. So this doesn't happen, at least theoretically.
Every time I hear some politician begging for money to make new laws, right? Or that we're going to allot this money for these new laws. I'm like, wait a minute. You can't enact or follow the ones that are already on the books and follow those red flags.
Now, I'm just guessing, of course. This is just logical thinking that he was underage when it happened, and maybe his records were sealed, so it doesn't carry over when you're 18. So maybe that's a loophole they need to fix.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, unfortunately, these tragedies happen in order to find out where the loopholes are. And it's really tragic and sad, but that's just the way it is sometimes. And I think sometimes when these things happen, it doesn't shatter, but it shakes my faith a little bit. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. We'll go in a different direction, but I do.
Okay, that's fine.
I do want to comment a little bit.
But if we didn't mention it, at least, in passing.
No. I knew we were going to talk about it, and I had something I wanted to say about it as well. So the false equivalencies that are used in media, right? These false equivalencies, it's blame. It's say this is another Rittenhouse, and I'm like, wait, if you really follow that logic, you think this guy will go on trial and be acquitted? Or you think this guy will go on trial and be acquitted?
If there is a trial,
right? It's like, what? Those false equivalencies are insane.
But I don't even think the mainstream media believes that.
Oh, they don't.
The people with 3 brain cells touching don't believe it, but there's millions that have been brainwashed. Tim Pool calls them city urban liberal types, and the acronym is CULT.
Yeah, that's good. It's a campaign that instantly, right? It's reactionary. They're sitting back waiting for the next thing to happen because we live our lives in the illusion that there's some governing authority that actually can control everything that's going on. And when something happens, we don't look at the symptoms that led to it. There's a contingent that just snaps into accusation for political gain, right?
Absolutely. And I find it absolutely appalling when innocent people's lives are now gone,
Yeah.
and they use that for political gain. I think
Instantly,
it's disgusting.
like within seconds on social media. Within seconds, it used to be you let it sit for a day, and you're like, at least, and then it.
You know, the funny part is when all that stuff was going on in Kenosha, and Peter Ducey asked Jan Psaki, who was the press secretary at the time, why didn't the president go to Kenosha? And her response was, when a president goes to a city or a location, it's a huge drain on their local resources.
Yeah. I listened
so all
to
of a sudden now he's in Buffalo, and Holtzell's from Buffalo, which makes it even worse.
All of a sudden the resources are worth it.
Yeah, and the governor's from Buffalo, so But I think that 98% of the people see through that. It's the 2, 3, 4% that really worry me.
Well, it was Steve Turley, because I did listen to some of Tim Pool's commentary yesterday, and then Steve Turley's commentary from Turley Talks. He cited a study, because this happens. It happens. There's plenty of case study now to look at the effects of what the media effect, not just of the event happening, of one of these mass events like this. And the studies are that the reactionary language used in the media by the different parties, like the gun grab kind of reflexive, let's pass some laws, gun grab. What happens is those issues unite one side and divide the other side. So you've got one political party
polarizing
that is pro Second Amendment, and then the other political party that is split, half pro Second Amendment and half anti Second Amendment.
I posted on Twitter that I said, if this was an open carry or constitutional carry state, I think less people would have died, and they went nuts on me.
Oh no, that's the fact, right?
It's a statistical fact. You can't get around it.
Remember when the Batman movie premiere? Remember when the Dark Knight movie premiere? And there's that kid. He literally searched. Yeah. There was 2 regions. One was a place where you could conceal carry, and the other one was a theater that was actually further away from him.
Right.
That had signs that said no weapons or whatever. So instead of the one close to him, he picked the one further away from him because he knew he wasn't going to come up with any resistance.
Well, because it's a defenseless free zone.
Yeah, but like you're right. It's waking people up. Like there are people going, what?
Well, you know why I'm not discouraged with the two-way issue? Because in the last 10 years, more and more states are constitutional carry. I think there's going to be 26 now come into this year.
And that's what
that's more than half. Now, that's not counting the ones that will issue permits, which is probably another 10 or 12.
Right.
So the tide is slowly turning. It's just nobody's really noticing.
Turley says in that study that the only thing that happens is those who talk about passing new laws, like the bluer states, all of those bills die in committee, right? Yep. So nothing ever happens, and then the states that are the laws are getting through are the ones that actually make gun rights looser, right? It's like, oh, people do need to be able to defend themselves in these circumstances.
Well, the funny part is I think the rioting of 2020 had a huge impact because I was looking at some numbers. Well, the permits that were issued was just skyrocketing the number nationwide, and a huge swath of that is white, college-educated, suburban women.
Yeah.
Now, you get those guys to change, you got a momentum that can't be stopped. All and right. A lot of them are the liberal types that finally got red-pilled and said, you know what? I'm defending my kids, and I don't care who says so.
Anybody who's paying attention, and there are plenty of people paying attention on both sides that are looking at the trends of history and what's coming, right? You can know exactly what's coming in November. Like, It's like, oh, okay. So both sides are prepping, right? The fanatical language being used to just strike fear in people's hearts. Fear. Be afraid.
Well, that turns out their base. That turns out their base. I mean, I was in local politics a long time. And we didn't use fear tactics in local elections. It was kind of foolish because we were a smaller size city. But fear brings out people. They're not going to have, rather than go into details, they're not going to have the mail-in ballots like they used to for 2020. So, and you know what I mean? They're not going to have that advantage. I'm not saying that anything unlawful.
They had one chance to do this. They pulled something off, maybe, right?
Well, you know what it is?
And now everybody's watching very closely, so they can't.
Well, it's like a first class magician. You see this amazing trick on stage, and then later after the show, he shows you how he did it.
Yeah.
And then you
Right.
see the show again and you go, well, yeah, that trick's not so cool anymore because I
But he
know how
doesn't.
it was done.
But he doesn't willingly show you how he does it. It's there were cameras rolling that he didn't know were going, and everybody got access to those cameras
Yeah,
to see
yeah,
how he did it. Right? It's not
right,
him
right,
willingly showing you; it's the
right.
investigations they're
And,
exposing.
and I think they knew it was a one-time, one-trick pony, and
Right?
they pulled out all the
They
stops, and I'll give it to them. It worked.
and saying knowing that they would have window, a limited window where they would be able to run amok. And it's like, whoa, this is going really, really left, really, really fast. He's not a moderate. He's not listening to both sides. He's just being pulled so far, so fast that
Oh,
everybody's noticing
what's
it.
funny with the internet, everything got accelerated, of course.
Yeah.
Now on the progressive side, when they take over like they have just recently, it's always a quick change. They always just take over. Now, conservative people, when culture changes over time, is a slow, drawn-out process. But
A
here's the thing.
wave. A
Here's the thing, though. That slow process just trudges along, and nobody notices it. And it's a lot more permanent when it's done slowly like that, rather than the ups and downs of the progressives. And that's why I'm encouraged.
Mm-hmm. Here's the metaphor of the wave is one thing. Like you could throw a pebble in a pond, and that wave's going to actually make it all the way to the edges of that
Yeah,
pond.
right.
It'll be long and drawn out, and you won't be able to see it as distinctly. But the wave is not stopping. It won't stop unless it's counteracted by something. Nothing is counteracting this
I mean,
wave.
in the 1980s, early 1990s, if you and I were on here now talking, and we said, Donald Trump is going to just put the whole Democratic Party in disarray. All the progressives are going to go out of their minds. They're going to do all kinds of crazy stuff. When we listen to this stuff, they would probably put us under a psych evaluation.
They're like, wow, you guys are either crazy or really creative.
Yeah, what do you write? You do write for Hollywood, but what are you, a Hollywood writer? I mean, nobody would believe this movie. And then some baby-faced dork with a bow tie named Tucker Carlson was going to,
right?
They would think you were crazy.
And he worked for CNN, MSNBC.
Oh,
Last
yeah.
person on their radar, right? He went through their. He knows both sides. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows the people personally. Like he knows Liz Cheney.
I mean, Tim Pool used to work for Vox.
Right? Well, so Tucker personally knows some of these people, like Liz Cheney. Like she's actually a good person. She's being taken over by anger.
He called her very intelligent. She's just lost her way. He said
she's consumed by hatred. Right?
That's what he said. Yeah,
consumed by hatred for the Cheeto head guy. Right?
Yeah, it's he's living in all their heads rent free, rent free.
I mean, it's God, right? So. And I mean, I hate to politicize, like, God choose one over the other. Like in a football game, God doesn't care who wins, right? Or he does, right? It's the personal stories. He knows every personal story of those guys, but God's not rooting for one team over the other.
Right.
But when you're talking about a moral compass, God is rooting for something to happen, right? The Republicans are evil and Democrats are evil. Right?
We've always had a higher.
We've always
had a higher moral standard here. Now, have we always met that higher moral standard? No. And the Constitution's Declaration set that moral standard very high. Now, just because we don't achieve 100% of it doesn't mean we're evil. We do the best we can. And I think every 30, 40, 50 years, we get higher and higher on that scale, and we get closer and closer. But it's a long way to go.
Well, there's some very stark lines that are very clear for some people. Like, it's like, oh, and for me, I like science, right? And I like the fact that facts exist, right? I like the fact that there are facts. The fact that there are facts is amazing. It's not.
Well, there's your facts. There's your facts and my facts.
No. I'm not talking about those kinds of facts. There are facts that are true, irrelevant of what you think about them, and then there are facts that are definitely subjective, I guess. But facts, and so like I love the notion of a human being. As a distinct creature from every other creature, right? That seems to be the case, right? Scientists have broken up the gene, there's phyla, there's
What is-
kind, there's
what is it?
species.
Divine spark, I think they
There,
call it,
right.
or whatever.
So
Yeah.
there's something distinctly, there's this gap between human and the next thing that's out there that we even have historical record for. There is this huge gap between human
Sure.
and non-human.
Right.
And it's like, for me, that's scientific, and I love that. It confirms the word of God, that you are different, right? I
Well,
created
yeah,
you
they
different than these
say
other
that
things.
the DNA is only 1% different, but it's a huge difference.
Right? We're talking
That 1%
non-physical.
is huge.
DNA is just the physical map for,
Right, right.
the manifestation, right? What it's like, every molecule in us changes almost constantly. Like over 7 years, after 7 years, every molecule in you has been replaced at least once, right? There's this,
Yeah.
but the permanence of I, right? The me that I am is just growing and progressing, not being replaced. And so
we're the only beings that know, that question why we're here. We're the only beings that know we're going to die. We're the only beings that know a whole bunch of stuff. So that
that even
makes
wonder
us
about those things.
even wonder about those things, like the other galaxies, and looking
Right.
under a microscope at photosynthesis. I mean, it makes us head and shoulders different than the rest.
Well, here's a fascinating thing, and while we're on this, as kind of a Christian apologetic topic, not just that we are so unique as organisms, as a species of thing, but the location we find ourselves in this universe, not just solar system, but universe, is a unique location. If this planet were in any other sector of the universe, anywhere else, we wouldn't be able to see the size of the universe. Literally,
Right,
we're in a
right.
place that doesn't have a lot of other galaxies around us, that with the light
Sure.
that clouds it out, we are in a dark portion of the universe where we can see the distance.
You can
we
see better.
literally
Yeah. Yeah.
see, and the moon that actually orbits our ball is exactly the perfect size to create like this lens effect when it crosses in front of the sun.
Yeah. There was a
Right?
red moon there was a red moon the other night.
All right. But the totality of the solar eclipse, the moon is literally the perfect size. It's not just that we're in the right place in the universe, but where we have this thing that happens every now and then that can show us. Einstein's theory of relativity is based on looking at the bending of light around the sun when the moon is in front of it. Right. So
Right,
the
yeah.
physics. So not only are we unique, but our ability to perceive, we are in the perfect physical location to see everything, right?
And that's not,
So-
and many believe, I'm sure you're included, myself, that's not an accident.
Right. But it's beyond probability, right? The ratio of the size of the moon to the sun, the distance, right? They are the same size from our perception, but the moon is so much smaller than the sun.
If there's no higher being, it's like flipping a coin 1,000 times in a row and calling it. The odds are incredibly high that it would happen. So obviously something or someone or whatever intervened.
It was planned, right? It was
Yeah,
intended
it made
intended
it
to
like
happen,
this, yeah.
so that we could know, so that we could grow in knowledge, so that we can know
Right.
truth from falsehood, which brings us back to how we went on this tangent. Is because of science, it's like you can break down a whole political perspective. You can destroy it, right? By saying
Right.
that humans aren't actually born precisely a certain way, irrelevant of how you feel. Right, and I'm dancing around some
Oh no,
subjects,
I know what you're getting at.
so it's confidence building as you grow in knowledge that it makes sense, right? Like thinking that every Republican is about to do what this guy did, right? Every Republican, what this guy. That guy had mental health issues and was who was abandoned by the mental health industry or whatever.
No, that's like I like collies and Hitler like collies, so therefore I'm a Nazi. It just the logic doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. I'm encouraged by that rhetoric. You know why? Because they have nowhere else to go. If that's the best they have, if that's their best argument, they're voting for their side, and they don't have an argument.
They're actually losing a following by maintaining that narrative. Right? It sounds more and more wingnut every time they say something.
And they're so self-unaware, they don't even realize they're doing it.
Yeah, the bubble gets smaller. Well, let's
interfere
transition.
with your enemy when they're making a mistake. That's for certain. That's Napoleon's quote.
Right? Let them just. Well, that was Gideon's Army, right? People don't really. The Bible isn't very specific about explaining the psychological reason for what happened in Gideon's army. Gideon surrounded these armies. These are armies that have joined together, right, to attack the Israelites.
Right.
And Gideon, they've also heard the stories about this God delivering them through the Red Sea and doing these things in a pillar of fire, right? So these armies are wanting to attack this army, but they also have this fear that they have some kind of supernatural power with them. So what happens? Gideon circles their camp, and these lights go off, and the guys in the camp who are not of the same army. There's multiple armies inside this camp that are surrounded, and they hear things going on, and it's dark. They don't have street lights. They don't have fluorescent lighting. They have a little dim firelight. They start attacking each other because they think they're being run on, and they see some other warrior that doesn't look like, that's not their friend. It's some guy in another uniform from another camp, and they start attacking each other, and they diminish each other until they're gone completely.
And that's what's happening now. They're imploding. Exactly. They're eating their own.
They're saying insane things and getting attacked.
I'm watching yesterday. I did a video on my YouTube channel of some talking heads in the Biden administration concerning the baby formula, and I'm watching CNN, MSNBC. And they're grilling these guys, and the looks on their faces, like, wait a minute, I thought we were lock and step together. They're starting to eat their own.
Yeah, it's been happening, and it's getting bigger, and it's growing, and that's the writing on the wall. I mean, I just heard an article when somebody I listened to was talking about they're prepping for the investigations, right? Because what happens when the Congress flips, when the House of Representatives, that's what's coming, right? That's the wall that it's an inevitable wall that's coming, that they're just, they're trying to fight against it, and the wall's just going to just push them. That's what's coming. And even Biden is prepping. I don't know. You have to.
Well, it's the middle of summer, and they know winter's coming, and they can't make it go away. It's going to come no matter what. And I don't know what they're doing. Not everybody that's higher up in the DNC and even elected officials, they're not all clueless in a bubble people. There's a lot of smart ones. So I'm wondering to myself, where the heck are the smart ones? They're just keeping their head down?
Well, think about it. If you're trapped on a team that is losing, like you're on a team that is losing, but you're getting a paycheck, and you have all these other friends that you kind of commiserate with, maybe behind the scenes, and you're like, when's this going to blow over? Am I implicated in anything? They're all looking around to see if.
But they must talk amongst themselves, though, privately off the air and off the record, saying, "Hey, guys, you know what? Let's just take a breath for a minute, because
let's talk to that Project Veritas guy.
Really dumb."
Let's talk to that Project Veritas guy.
I saw that video. They had that Indian engineer, the kid. He seemed like a nice guy too. I'll say that up front.
Right? He was straightforward and honest. And
he wasn't mean spirited. He was, and I worked 4 hours a week for the last couple.
Yeah.
Now here's Elon Musk. I was a businessman for 22 years, and I have one of my employees say that, and I hear him, or a future employee, I'm buying the business. And then he talks about people taking months off at a time.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some serious unemployment being paid out of that place.
Right. And the profit motive is not priority. It's mental health. Right. It's like, this is not a business. This is a
summer camp.
Right. There's a few people that do things, and then there's us.
Can you imagine being one of those people that worked when they felt like it, made 150 grand a year, plus the bennies? I'm sure they have platinum health insurance, and doing it for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, then all of a sudden lose it. They're going to snap.
Well, what a lot of people don't realize is that guy using the word commie, right? For that guy to use the word we're all effing commies is what he said, right?
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
He says, and for somebody to use the term the way he used it, he doesn't understand the term. They have a different definition of the term.
Okay.
When that's applied from the governmental scale, a society crumbles, right? You don't have a society.
He's probably saying it's the opposite of capitalist. It's probably what he's referring to. I mean, he even mentioned about making money and showing a profit and all that stuff. And that's like, that's like you mentioned making a profit to one of those people. They look at you like you just kicked the puppy. Right. I mean, it's You're like, what are you evil? You just
Hold of them.
yeah.
Like,
I mean,
wait,
like,
what?
who do you think keeps the lights on, you moron? Who do you think pays for your health insurance? Who do you think pays for your new car? I mean, you got to be kidding me. They have no clue.
His Twitter executive. He's like a high up too, like a high up engineer or something. And
Yeah.
then toward the end, at least of the Project Veritas video, he's saying, but you know, I have to keep my job because I need the money. Right? It's like we want to keep
And
our
he
job.
seems like one of
It's
those
yeah.
guys, you know, if I was Elon and I saw that and I would call James O'Keefe and say, can I see the rest of the video with this guy?
Yeah.
He seems decent. Maybe I'll give him another chance. Because he even said, I'm warming up to the fact Elon's coming and all that. You know, a lot of them don't like him. They're all freaking out. He says, well, that's the way it is, you know.
I misspoke a moment ago. It wasn't keep the money. He was talking about trying to get a raise or a promotion. Right, that's what it was. It was that he was trying to get a promotion.
To beat the inflation.
Right, it's not just having salaries. Like wow, because the salary hike at the next level, they have really big salary hikes or something. He was saying.
Well, he was saying he's because of inflation. His money's worth less, so he needs a promotion to make up the difference.
Right.
And I thought to myself, maybe this kid isn't so clueless as the rest of them.
Right. He's like, well, if I work harder, I might get promoted. It's like
more than 4 hours, four hours a week. Yeah. Right?
And so I'm thinking about actually doing my job better. Basically, is what he said. Because you know, and it's like they talk out both sides of the mouth. They don't realize communism doesn't give you a raise, and you don't get a profit.
I mean, there's going to be
you don't get a big boost when you know.
I mean, there's going to be a huge increase in psych meds in that general area with the Twitter offices. I'll tell you, because these guys are going to, and they're, you know what, in a weird way, I don't want anybody have any pain, you know, emotionally about their job or their finances. But the thing of it is, though, it's about time some of these guys got red pilled. The world is not flat, and you're going to find out real quick that it's not. And how you handle it after that is up to you.
Well, John Kardisco, I don't want to talk politics as much, but since you were following it, and I just glance over headlines and then do my job and develop other stuff. Like you said, Hollywood, I'm doing a lot of stuff. Outside of this realm that we've been talking about, what are you up to? What is going on in your life? Do you have anything?
Well, I sold my business last year.
And the business was again, what was the business?
Convenience store, Battle Redemption Center, similar to California, but not the same. It's a nickel deposit, and then you sort it by distributor. It's a long story, but
got it.
I was there for 22 years. I was a local elected official as a Democrat. Became Republican. They turned against me.
What year?
I officially left in 2013. I was a councilman in 2007. I was the head Democrat. I was the council president. And I saw what was coming even back then, but I stayed with the party because you can't help fix it if you're not part of it, was the theory.
Right.
And so I just got disgusted. And then they started coming after me when I left the party, boycotted my business. And so I decided that either I kowtow and keep my mouth shut or I do it 10 times worse. And I decided to do it 10 times worse. Put huge Trump signs on the side of my building where they couldn't get them, with a picture of Claudia Tenney, the congresswoman, and Trump on the side of the building. I put it right in their face. They're like 10 foot by 6 foot signs.
Oh my goodness.
On a busy corner, one of the busiest streets in that side of town. So I figured, you know what, if they're going to hate me, I'm going to give them a reason for them to hate me.
What was the town again?
Binghamton, New York.
Binghamton.
We talked about this before. This is the hometown of Rod Serling.
Yes. Rod.
Anyway,
Thank you for
I did that, and so they did a boycott against my
I lived in
business.
Dansville. Do you know where Dansville is?
I've heard of it.
I lived there. My mom was born there. My sister was born there.
Yeah, I mean, upstate is beautiful. The only problem is we're connected to New York. But anyway, so time went on. I really, really struggled financially with the boycotts, but I wasn't going to give up. And last year, and then of course, COVID came, which put the kibosh on a lot of it. And some buyers showed up in the spring of last year, and I said, okay. And so I've taken, once we closed, and I got all my house is filled with stuff in my store. I got to get rid of it. But anyway, I decided to take a year off.
So much to do, right?
I mean, it's like Willy Wonka, you know, so little to do, so much time. Oh, we reversed that, you know. But I took a year off, and so I'm probably gonna get a part-time job. And I worked on my YouTube channel for a while, and you know, did some networking with people, and I'll be okay. I'm not nearly as well off as I should have been, but if I had to do it all over again, I would do exactly the same thing, because they can't quiet me. They can't bully me. And as soon as you give in to these morons is when they really come after you.
Well, I'm glad to have you as, anybody who is a guest on one of the shows on this network, I
Right.
consider a part of the team. So I'm grateful.
Thanks.
I'm definitely, I consider you a part of this team.
I appreciate that.
I'm absolutely, I love that you're a like-minded, godly human, right?
I search for the truth and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to talk to you again next time. Bye, everybody else.